Because what you told me last night, and I want you to repeat it tonight, is you went down to the boulevard to intentionally try to find a woman.
Yes. She took a deep breath like that, and she said, well, did you kill somebody? And I said, yeah.
Clearly this crime that we're talking about is heinous, and we're not going to downplay the severity of it. But I will tell you, this is a little perplexing to me because everybody that knows you, you confess to a murder on the phone, and their concern is for your safety, your well-being, offering prayers. So that says a lot about your character. So this crime you're confessing to is very shocking to me, and I'm sure everybody in this room.
You don't see a sight like this very often. A man walks into a police station and speaks with an officer. After a few moments of conversation, the man anxiously takes a seat. He is being accompanied by several members of his church congregation, and they are there to encourage him because he is about to confess to a brutal crime that he committed 4 long years ago. It's September the 19th of 2018, and 27-year-old William Leverett has voluntarily turned himself in to the police department in Simsbury, Connecticut. The story that Leverett is about to share might leave a lump in your throat and encourage you to keep your children, especially your daughters, at arm's reach. As the church members embrace William Leverett one last time, they are encouraging him to do the right thing. After a few moments, an officer shakes his hand and escorts him back to an interview room. The detectives assigned to this case know that this is a pivotal moment. There are children who want to know what happened to their mother, and there is an ex-husband who has had the shroud of suspicion hovering over his head for 4 long years. I just wanted to point out that this video is courtesy of the Simsbury Police Department. Now, Simsbury is in Connecticut, and Connecticut heavily redacts their footage prior to delivery. All names and medical information is pretty much redacted. With that said, I think you will still find this to be interesting. It's easy to understand, and I think you'll enjoy it. Let's get it.
How old are you, 27?
27.
What year were you born?
91.
91, nice. Did you go to high school in Colorado?
I did.
Did you graduate?
No. I did not graduate. I wasn't doing well in my senior year, and I realized that I wasn't going to make it,
Yeah.
so I decided to go opt for my GED,
Yep.
and so I dropped out, and then after the point in time I dropped out was when I became aware that I was being investigated by the Colorado Springs Police Department for the assault case against me. And when I had already been planning and preparing to take my GED, and I finished my GED just a month or less before I got arrested. So I got my GED, fortunately.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So
Good for you.
And what year were you arrested?
2010.
All right.
This SA case that Leverett is describing, it's not our case. Our case happened in 2014, and the 27-year-old Leverett is describing his criminal background prior to our incident. 4 years before this case, he found himself in trouble with the law in Colorado. By the end of this, you'll probably see why these questions are very, very relevant to this case.
And you served time in prison for that?
I didn't serve time, but I was just in county lockup,
Okay.
pending the trial that my lawyer wanted for me.
How long were you in lockup?
16 months.
Oh, I'd say that's time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
You don't call that prison, you just call it lockup. Jail.
Jail.
Yeah.
County jail.
Yeah.
So no prison time.
There's still rough time in there, right?
Yeah. Apparently rougher than real prison.
Yeah.
So I've heard.
yeah.
So
Why don't you first start with Jim? What compelled you to come in here last night?
My friend asked me to take a walk with her and talk about some things that were concerning her, some behaviors of mine as of recently, and not so recently, behaviors of mine over the last several years that had begun to bother her, and most notably a few minor lies about my having said that I had not done something. Mostly one thing is buying a book, which I told her I didn't buy, but I actually did buy, and then telling her that the letter that came that had the order form that allowed me to get the book, that I didn't know much about it, when in fact I did, and that was very concerning to her, and she said that she was not going to be able to trust me, if I was going to keep on keeping secrets. And I told her that I didn't know how not to, due to this incident. I was not able to not keep secrets. And I told her that there was something that she did not know about, and that that I didn't think she would understand or be able to forgive me for. And she also brought up her concern of my driving ability up to her attention, and we talked about that, and I told her that that she wouldn't be happy with me if I told her the whole truth, and that she would probably make her not want to be my friend, but she said, I doubt there's anything you could say. So I came clean with the truth. Last night I told her what I had done. I don't think she really believed me at first. She questioned if I was going crazy, or if I was
And how did you confess that? What precipitated that statement? Did she ask you something specific?
She did not ask me something specific, but she stated that my inability to take responsibility for certain situations, or to be honest about little things, had made her less trusting of me, and I didn't want her to be less trusting of me, and so I decided that she had to know everything.
I'm going to try not to interrupt much more after this, but I want to point out it seems, at least maybe, the motivation for confessing has a little to do with impressing this girl that he likes. That's just my opinion. As you listen to the confession, he seems to waver in and out of the details, almost like confessing might not totally be his sole intention here. But I'll let you decide as you listen to it.
What did you think she was going to do when you told her something?
I don't really know what she was going to do.
What were you hoping that she was going to do?
I was going to hope that she was going to say, okay, I forgive you.
Okay. And you wouldn't be sitting here right now?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
What do you mean by that?
You were hoping that she was going to say that she'd forgive you, and that she wasn't going to go forward and tell the police?
Oh, no, I don't care about that. I'm comfortable with confession, and that she would have demanded that I come forward.
Okay, so you were ready.
Yes.
You know
in
your mind, if you tell
that I'm going to be coming in here,
and you were ready with that.
Yeah.
And how did you say it to her?
I said, my friend told me that she thought I should get professional help. And I said, professional help is not going to help me. It's just, nobody can help me right now. I said, the secrets I keep, I'm keeping to protect myself, but, because, that's just how I've always lived, and she said, well, that's not healthy. And I said, I don't know any other way. I said, I've told you about my sex offense, and you know about that, but there's something worse. And she took a deep breath like that, and she said, well, did you kill somebody? And I said, yeah. And she said, who was it? And I said, do you remember the murder along Iron Horse Boulevard? And she said, yes. And then I said, I did that. And she's like, and she kind of looked at me kind of blankly, and she said, what? What do you mean? And I killed that woman. And she said, are you sure you're not going crazy? And then I say positive, I know what I did. And she said, and we finally got back to the car. At that point we were already headed back to our cars. And she said, what are we going to do now? And I said, well, I think you know what we have to do. And she said, I think we need to go talk to you first. So she called me, and she called our pastor, and she said, I need you to sit down with me as his wife.
Mm-hmm.
And said, I need you to sit down. Will and I have something, I forget exactly what she said, but something along the lines of extremely important to talk about, or extremely serious, I think was her exact wording. We have something extremely serious to talk about. And, okay. And he said, why don't you guys come on up? And we had a little extra time, so we stopped to have a last ice cream together before we went up to talk to our pastor. And when we got there, he had invited his co-pastor, who are also aware of my sex offense from Colorado, and he's also a former corrections officer. So, and maybe even current corrections officer. I'm not sure if he's retired. But, so they were all there, and I told them everything I told what I'd done, when I'd done it, where I'd done it, and they said it now, and they said, now you know what you have to do. And so we discussed it, and we decided to come down, minus both their wives, because there wasn't enough car space,
Mm-hmm.
to come down with me, them that accompanied me here last night.
Now, was it when you were riding here with that you called up your boss to say?
No, it was on the way to drop off my car.
Okay.
So I called my boss to tell her what I had done when I was still in Windsor Locks area.
Okay, and what did you tell her?
I told her, I couldn't say like a whole lot of detail, but I asked her if she remembered. I told her that I wasn't going to be able to come into work today or ever again. I told her that I'm officially terminating my own employment, and she asked me, she said, is everything okay, Will? Are you alright? And I said, yeah, I'm okay, but I have to tell you, do you remember my manager's name is,
Mm-hmm.
I said, do you remember that murder that happened about 4 years ago in front of, in Simsbury on Iron Horse Boulevard? And she said, yeah, I remember that. Why? What's wrong, Will? And that's when I noticed a little concern in her voice. I said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but that was me. I've done that. And she said, and she just kind of took a deep breath, and she said, okay, well, she said, okay, well, are you okay? Are you safe? You're not going to hurt yourself or anything? I said, no, I'm okay with what I have to do now. I'm turning myself in tonight. And I said, I'm on my way to do it now. And she said, well, thanks for calling. Well, she's like, I'll be keeping you in my prayers, and let me know where you are when you get everything figured out.
Wow. That, I got to tell you, and I've said it a million times. Clearly this crime that we're talking about is heinous, and we're not going to downplay the severity of it. But I will tell you, this is a little perplexing to me because everybody that knows you confess to a murder on the phone, and their concern is for your safety, your well-being, offering prayers. So that says a lot about your character. So this crime you're confessing to is very shocking to me, and I'm sure everybody in this room.
Mm-hmm.
The entire time I've been investigating this, I have a mental picture
of
about
who you were looking for.
Who I'm looking for,
Uh-huh.
and it's not Will. So tell us what happened that night.
I just,
Why don't we do this now? When we talked yesterday, you said you're not on any medications.
No.
You're not an illegal drug user. You're not a drinker.
No.
You said you were diagnosed with, and you were diagnosed when?
When I was like 11
Okay.
or so-ish.
Okay.
I don't remember a whole lot from that point in my life.
On any medications for that, or
No, never
Okay.
any. I was on some medications when I was younger.
Did you ever contemplate on how to hurt others?
I contemplated, but I never formed any plans.
Okay. Now fast
It
forward
was more
a little.
just like a general thought.
Okay, so fast forward a little bit into your teenage years, and again, we're not counselors here. We just want to sort of paint a picture of the
Okay.
will that's sitting across from us.
Yeah.
So throughout your teenage years and young adult years, you weren't medicated.
No.
Were you prescribed medications or told you should be on medications and just never took them?
Not that I'm aware.
Okay. When, after your arrest and jail stay in Colorado, it was at about that time that it was determined you were going to come and live with your grandparents in Simsbury to get away from that environment.
Yes.
At what age did you come to Simsbury?
20.
20.
Or, I think it was 20.
Okay, so about 20.
Because I went to jail about half a year after I turned 18.
Okay.
And I was there for 16 months. So I think I got out just after I turned 20.
Okay, so it was before your 21st birthday.
Yes, I had my 20. I know it was 20 when I got out because I celebrated my 21st birthday here.
Okay.
What was your sentence?
Colorado's really weird with sex offenses. They don't have a graduated structure. So, no matter what you've done, the sentence is always the same. Like in Connecticut, you have sexual assault 1, sexual assault 4, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, and each one has a minimized sentence, even down to risk of injury.
Sure.
In Colorado, they don't do anything remotely like that.
Yeah.
They have one charge or one charge for everything, and the charge always results in 10 years to life of probation.
And you have 100 years probation, right?
So there's a little. No, I have 10 years to life, but there's a little bit of an interpretation error between the two states. Connecticut doesn't recognize 10 years to life, so they just assume life is 100 years.
Oh, okay.
So that's why
Okay, all right. So you moved to Simsbury to maybe try to start over or get out of that environment.
Yeah.
When you were about 20, you were living with your grandparents at 20. Had you lived anywhere else when you moved into the state?
No.
No, okay.
First place was there.
All right, so let's fast forward a little bit. So you meet when and where?
He's asking about the girl that he confessed to. So this is a really relevant question. Check this out.
Whenever, wherever, depending on our schedules and
When
work.
did you first meet her?
First met her at Fresh Market.
Okay.
We didn't. I first met her at Fresh Market. She worked in the bakery. I was working in produce or the front. I'm not sure which at the time. And I think I had already been working there 6 to 9 months when I first met Fresh Market.
When did you start there? I think you told us May 2000.
August of 2013.
August of 2013, you started working there.
Yes.
You were working there for about 9 months?
My best guess.
So you met her sometime in spring, late winter of 2014.
Yes.
Now this meeting, or this relationship, you clearly wanted it to be more intimate, and she wanted to be friends.
I mean, I was attracted to her, yes, but I was very happy just being a friend. And like a work friend, we were just, she was always very nice to me. She always had a beautiful smile. She had which caused a
Little partial paralysis.
partial paralysis.
Yeah.
And I actually found that feature extremely cute on her, and I've told her that before. I said I think it looks very adorable.
Yeah.
So I told her that, and in time, not like right away.
Sure.
But that was one of the first features that I noticed about her that stood out to me.
Okay.
Was her very, very sweet smile and
And
everything.
she made it pretty clear to you that, hey, let's be friends.
Not even with that, because I didn't.
So clearly, and again, tell me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to where I'm going with this is I'm trying to lead up to the night.
Oh, I get it. I understand.
Yeah. So you're hanging out with her a little bit more. This attraction is growing.
For me it is.
Yeah, for you it is clearly. Now we know that you have this attraction for her, and I'm not suggesting that you committed this crime because of her. What I'm saying is the night in question that you were trying to contact her, or you couldn't get in touch. So I'm trying to figure out where your mind was, who you were thinking about, because what you told me last night, and I want you to repeat it tonight, is you went down to the boulevard to intentionally try to find a woman.
Yes.
Okay, so let's go to that night, which, tell me if I'm wrong, you said it was a Thursday night in November. You weren't sure the date, but it's a
sometime in November.
Okay, a Thursday night in November. You went to, as you normally do, between 4 or 5 o'clock. You got out about 6:30, so why don't you go from here?
So,
right from driving home. But what's important to me, too, is your telephone at the time.
okay.
So what you told me earlier was when you were in Hartford, while you were getting into your car, you dropped your phone, which was a track phone.
And the flip track phone, too.
Okay, so start from here and tell us about the phone, if it was disabled, if it was not working. So start with that, please.
Most people get convicted because of their cell phone. So this part right here is very, very strange. And yeah, you got to give the guy credit for walking into the police station and turning himself in. But this story and a lot of the evidence you're going to hear, very, very odd.
So I got out of the group, I had a headache, and I was on my way to my car, and while I was getting into my car, my phone dropped on the ground, the battery fell out, it shut off, and I just was like, oh well, I'm not going to deal with this now. So I put it in my car and forgot about it. I drove home. I got home around 7. So usually about a 45-minute drive home with the rush hour traffic in Hartford. So I got home around 7, and I noticed my grandparents weren't home, and so I fell asleep. My grandparents weren't home, and so it was a little lonely there.
Did you try, when you got home, did you try to put your phone back together?
At that time, my phone was still in my car, and I
Okay.
still had a headache, so it wasn't.
You didn't care about it?
No,
Okay.
it wasn't on my mind at all.
Okay.
My only former attempt that day to contact was in the early afternoon before group.
How did you try to contact her?
Text message.
Okay, did she respond?
No.
Okay, and what was the text message? What was the content? Just
How are you? Or
just normal greetings?
Yes.
Okay.
You know.
All right, so you get home about 7 o'clock. The phone is still broken in your car. You went in. You recognize your grandparents weren't home, and I think you said you actually found it odd the dog wasn't there either.
Yeah,
and it was a little lonely.
Yeah, and I love that dog. You know,
Yeah.
he was so sweet and fun. You know, we always had some good fun, but you know, he wasn't there. I think my grandparents took him to a neighbor or something. So, no dog, no grandparents. I was a little lonely, so I got back in my car and.
This is where I want
Yeah.
you to be detailed, and
Okay.
this is where we're going to press you a bit.
Okay. So
Okay.
I went up into the center of town. I drove along 202 or 10.
What was your intention and the purpose of driving to the boulevard, which you told me last night? You said you had an intention.
Yes,
You were lonely. What was your intention?
I intended to be around people. To be around people, to talk to some people, see some people and their dogs. And as the night went on, to at least have some form of contact with a woman. It wasn't on my mind at the time whether it be or not, or anything else. But that was my intention, was to go down to the boulevard and walk along the path and see some people and their dogs.
Okay. And with the ultimate hopes of, hey, maybe I'll meet a woman and it could go somewhere.
That was not my ultimate hope.
Mhm.
That was a hope that developed over the course of the evening.
Okay. Okay. So when you come to Connecticut and you're staying here in Simsbury, so from about the time you're just under 21, and this crime occurred when you were about 23, so you were here in town about 2 years, 2.5 years. Is that correct? Because you said this crime
I
occurred
would
about
say
4
no.
years ago.
I would say about. Well, I've been here 7 years now, and if this
Oh,
in
okay.
court, so if this occurred 4 years ago, it'd be almost 3 years.
Okay, so you were in town about 3 years.
Uh huh.
During that time, no relationships, no partners.
No anything.
Okay, what about any hookups, any prostitutes, any?
One time,
And like I said, and a lot of what we say and do, it's like you can't tell us anything worse than you've already told us.
Yeah.
And the rest is just details that are very, very important to this.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing you could say that's going to either embarrass yourself, embarrass us.
Mm-hmm.
It's just getting down to the facts of this. So we need to know who Will is.
Yep.
So go.
So
go from there.
one time, I'm not sure when, I was just getting out of. I always parked my car off the side street, so I didn't have to pay the meter fee.
Yep.
And on the side street, one time I was. I had just gotten into my car, and there was a woman walking down the street, and I asked her if she needed a ride, and she said sure, and she got in, and she said, "What do you want to do?" And then at that point I realized she was a prostitute.
Okay.
And I'm like, that wasn't my original intention. I just was asking
Sure.
somebody if they needed a ride. So she said, "What do you want to do?" And she acted the way apparently prostitutes do, trying to be all. I don't even know how to describe it, but anyway, I said, I'm not interested in having a prostitute in my car. And she's like, well, fine. She got out and walked away. But,
Oh, and nothing occurred.
no, nothing occurred.
Oh, okay.
So,
So the time here before the murder, there was no sexual contact, no relationships,
No.
And your intention to go down there was to communicate with people, to talk to people.
people in general,
With the hopes that, hey, maybe there'll be a lady down there that I could.
that was the ultimate end goal.
Okay. So,
So,
your phone's broken. You want some human contact.
Mhm.
You drive down to the boulevard.
Mhm.
On the way back in here, you actually pointed out some of these features to Jason and myself.
Yeah.
So why don't you describe to Jim how you drove here and what you did step by step?
So I turned right onto Iron Horse Boulevard, and then I drove up to the very first stop sign, which was where there is the post office. And I took a right. I drove up to the very first spot at the post office, and I parked my car.
Okay, stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
You got home from group about 7-ish.
My best guess of time.
Okay. How long do you think you stayed home before you left?
5, maybe 10 minutes.
Okay.
Not long.
And did you go anywhere prior to? Did you stop for gas? Did you stop
No.
for a drink? Did you stop anywhere?
No.
Did you
not
stop?
that I remember anyway.
Okay. Did you stop anywhere after? And you just went straight home.
Straight home from
Okay.
then from my house to my route that I've described.
Okay. So when you got home, you weren't home very long. You didn't stay home. You didn't take a nap. You didn't call anybody. You
Nope.
just maybe 5, 10, 15 minutes, and then you left.
15 minutes would be a lot. Probably 5
Okay.
to 10 at most.
So now I know how you got there, how you parked. You showed us this parking spot at the bank.
Mhm.
You said
At the post office.
post office. Thank you. You parked your car and you walked down to the boulevard.
Yes.
Tell me what happened, who you encountered when you walked down there.
Now, we're going to dive right into the details of this brutal attack right after this one and only commercial break. If you're still around, do your boy a favor and tap that like button for me. Thanks, friends.
The only person that I remember encountering was a very friendly guy who was walking his dog, and it was like a white dog, I believe, fairly good sized, and the dog was very, very, very friendly. And I asked him what kind of dog it was, and he told me, and I don't remember.
Can you describe the guy at all? Do you recall? I know it's been forever. White guy, black guy, Hispanic, Asian?
White guy.
Okay.
That's about all I can remember.
Okay, no.
I'm not particularly remembering of
Sure.
guys.
Understood. Okay, so go ahead.
And then I walked up and down the boulevard walking path for 15 minutes.
You've been there before? Or?
That was my first time ever going there. Ow.
Why,
Well,
is that
actually,
like a populated area?
you know, I told you I hadn't been there before. That is actually not true. I just remembered I had started riding my bike up and down that bike path early in the morning. I had gotten a new bike.
Earlier in the morning? That morning?
No, mornings, weeks, and months prior to this. That is a new detail that I just now remembered. Thinking of my bike in my basement. I had done a loop from my house. Usually I would do a loop from where my house is all the way where the bike trail starts up on Route 10 up by the Antonios.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would ride down on my bike on the trail, and then I would loop around and then go Drake Hill Riverside Road to my house.
Okay.
And I was pretty good about that for a few weeks. My friend had been encouraging me to get more exercise, and so I decided to buy a bike to do so.
And how long had you been riding that bike prior to this incident? Months, weeks, days? Like, how long before this murder did you buy that bike?
I think I bought the bike in the fall, so if I bought it in August or September, I think I probably didn't have it for more than 3 months before the murder.
Okay. And
So-
it was almost a daily occurrence you went for a ride?
I tried to make it a daily occurrence. I tried to make it a ritual, a positive workout thing that I did on a regular basis.
Check on this.
So I'm not sure how long.
Okay.
I'm not sure how long
Okay.
or how
But you
frequently I did it.
knew the layout of
Yeah.
that bike path.
And
you
and I would also say I've known the layout of Simsbury Town before all this as well, due to my job as a landscaper.
Oh, okay.
I was frequently driving around
Yeah.
as a landscaper in the trucks.
Did you ever drive your bicycle down there or walk that path at night in the dark?
I say I did it early morning. I meant like really, really early, like 5, 6 in the morning. So it would have been dark,
okay.
dark or
Yeah.
or becoming dawn-ish.
Okay.
But I actually was riding down to. Sometimes I would ride it two ways. Sometimes I would ride it all the way down to the end of Iron Horse and then go over the Drake Hill Bridge, or sometimes I would even take my bike through the swamplands behind,
Yeah.
and then behind the treatment plant,
Mm-hmm.
and ride my bike down there and take my Bible. I had a backpack with my Bible and some water in it, and I would take my Bible to go and pray down there as the sunrise was coming up. So I started timing it pretty well
Yeah.
to the point where I was getting to where the sunrise was going to be at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever encounter anybody down there? Did you ever approach anybody? Did you ever stop to talk to people for that human interaction?
Not there, no.
No?
No.
Okay. So you said after you parked your car, you walked down to the bike. You walked down to the bike path. You encountered this white guy walking a mid-sized white dog in the area of that crosswalk.
Yeah.
And then you said you went for a little walk south towards the band shell. Like
I went a little
where'd
bit
you
of
go?
north and a little south.
Okay. How far? Do you think you went as far as the band shell? The music theater down there.
No, I don't think I went quite that far.
Okay.
I didn't make it down to where the playground was. I made it maybe half that far.
Okay.
So right where the that open green field is.
Yeah.
I made it down to probably the edge of that.
Okay. Did you encounter anybody else? Any joggers, bikers, runners, walkers?
Not that
Old people, young
not
people.
that is particularly memorable to me.
Okay.
It's possible, but I'm done.
How long do you think your...
I remember the dog because the dog was very friendly.
Yeah. How long were you down there walking back and forth?
10, 15 minutes maybe.
Okay, then did you walk directly back to your car?
Yeah.
So then now this is where the detail has to be perfect.
Okay.
When you got back in your car, tell me exactly what you did and when you first encountered this person.
Okay, so...
And when you encountered her, what did you recognize about her? Her features,
Yep.
her details, everything you said last night about her physical attributes. Why don't you tell Jim that?
Okay, so I'm going to make one slight possible adjustment to this. I told you that I drove out of the
Out of the
post office
and up and
looked
around?
around. That's the way I would expect myself to go, but for some reason that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I seem to remember myself backing up and going down past the post office without looping around it.
Okay.
So that's a detail that I think I may have
Made a mistake.
Made a mistake
Not
on
a worry. Okay.
So I just want to make that clear. And then so I drove down to where the crosswalk is, and there's a stop sign. And as I was getting ready to make the turn, my headlights flashed over a woman running on the trail who was very attractive, not particularly tall, maybe 5'5". I guess an average woman's height, I would say.
And you said, okay, now it's nighttime.
Mhm.
It's very dark down there.
It is,
You got your headlights.
except for where that particular stretch of road, there's there was fairly good lighting.
So when you said she was attractive, what made her attractive to you?
Just the way she was running. Her clothes were skin tight, so they were very feature revealing.
What kind of clothes?
Joggers clothes. I remember them being pink and black in either a polka dotted or stripe shape. Just athletic type clothing, as a runner would do. And so my headlights and her standing underneath the light brushed over her, and I saw her. So I was already going to be taking a right anyway, but when I saw that, I drove down a ways to just a little bit beyond People's Choice parking lot. There's an alleyway that is dark, and I parked there. I sometimes have gone there before.
What's going through your mind right now?
Well, at this point, I saw a woman that was very, very attractive.
And you know what? And I apologize because I have
Okay.
a tendency of cutting people off, and that's a bad habit of mine. You were talking about her features.
Yes.
And why don't you describe those features that you were attracted to once again?
Okay. Her breasts were very attractive. Her butt was very attractive. She had long hair, as I recall, or longish, and just the way she was running and a lot of other things I found very, very attractive.
And aside from the clothing, how you just described and her physical attributes, was she wearing any safety equipment?
I'm not sure if she was wearing any kind of a reflective gear or vest, but I think that's a possibility. And she was also running with a headlamp.
What were you thinking when you saw her? Were you getting aroused or?
I would say I was getting aroused. I was no.
Okay.
I wasn't, but I was aroused. I was
What were you wearing?
at least mentally aroused.
Okay.
In my mind, I wasn't at the point of like getting hard or anything. So I was mentally aroused, and at the time I was just wearing jeans, somewhat similar to these, I guess. Jeans are jeans.
Okay.
And I was wearing a t-shirt underneath, and since it was pretty chilly out that night, I was wearing a blue sweater or a blue sweater or like a zip-up jacket.
And what it was the weather was what? It was cold or?
It was cold and windy.
Okay. Like what kind of temperatures?
Probably approaching freezing, maybe a little sub-freezing.
Any snow on the ground or anything?
No snow on the ground at the time, just very cold, very, very windy.
Okay.
Kind of biting.
And you're only wearing a jeans and a t-shirt? Or?
A t-shirt with a zip-down sweater or a jacket over it.
Okay. And she's wearing, what is she wearing again?
As I recall, it was a black or pink, black or pink, but black and pink, sort of like a hot pink, running gear or athletic gear.
Like a bodysuit or?
Well, kind of hard to tell if it's in two pieces
Okay.
or if it was just one piece, but I guess a bodysuit is
Okay.
a fairly good description of what it was.
Tight clothing.
Tight clothing.
Okay, so you're sitting in the car, you see her,
Uh-huh.
you're mentally aroused. What?
So
what
at
you-
that point, I had decided that I wanted to go and get a better look. So I drove down past the point that she was running, and I pulled off in an alley a little further down from People's Choice. And I got out of the car.
Did you turn the car off?
Yes, I turned the car off.
Take the keys with you?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Maybe
Why did you specifically choose that spot?
because it was dark, and it was a place I don't know, it was dark and that was it.
And what's in your mind right now?
Well, at this point, I had decided that I wanted to get a little closer look, and I wanted to get a little closer look. I had become aroused, not physically aroused, but I had made up in my mind that I was attracted to her and that I wanted to at least get somewhat closer to her. And I got out of my car. I had a knife with me that I had in the car already, and I brought it with me. My original intention was to only to say, or not even to necessarily say hi, or maybe say hi, but to just be in her general vicinity. I was going to pretend like I was running.
Okay.
And I had the knife with me. This is a detail that has since occurred to me since our last conversation last night. When I brought the knife with me, I do believe that I was feeling maybe a slight bit of anger. Not really sure why, I don't know.
Anger at who?
I don't know. It was something I can't really explain, just a feeling.
Okay.
Not an anger at anyone specific, but I had the knife with me.
Okay.
And then, so I was running in her general direction, and I purposefully bumped into her. And when that happened, I drew the knife and I stabbed her.
When you say you purposely bumped into her,
Mm-hmm.
so
Because I wanted to get closer to her.
okay. Now this is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
When you parked your car, you chose that area because it was dark. Your intention was to get closer to her.
Yes.
You ran across the street, and we talked about it last night. This is a very well-lit area, except coincidentally, these street lamps were out.
Yes.
And you didn't tamper with those earlier.
No.
It was just,
They
as coincidence would have it, it was a darkened area, and that was the spot you thought was the best.
Mm-hmm.
So you could see, and you described it last night, tell me if I'm saying it wrong, she was running at a good clip.
Yes.
So by the time you parked and ran across the street, she was already approaching you.
Yes.
So
I would say she was maybe like 50 feet away from me by the time
Was she near the playground?
Yes.
Okay. So you said you were going to sort of pretend you were jogging too, and
Mhm.
is that what you started doing?
Yes.
And you started running toward her.
Yes.
Where, on what side of the running path was she running, and where were you?
I think she was on her right-hand side, and I was on my right-hand side. So she was running south on the right-hand side, and I was running north on what would have been her left.
So she was running closer to the guardrail, you were running closer to the wood line.
Yes.
Okay, and as you got close to her, what did you do to make her make contact with you?
I bumped into her.
How?
I just kind of like ran too close.
And did you hit her with your hand, your shoulder, your elbow, your...
Probably my shoulder or elbow, just like generally broad side of my left side of my body.
So you intentionally sort of sideswiped her, for a
Yeah.
lack of a better description?
Uh-huh.
Did that make her stop running?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what did she say when you were now face to face?
I don't know if she said anything. I think she was going to try and keep running, but that's when I pulled out the knife and I stabbed her.
Where were you when this occurred?
It was right in that, pretty much directly across from my car, where those darkened street lamps were.
Mm-hmm. Where you pulled the knife from, did you pull it out of your pocket, your pants, somewhere else, or did you have it in your hand?
I think it was probably in my hand, but
Okay.
I'm not really sure.
And you said earlier that there was like a plastic sheath over it, and we'll
Yes.
describe the knife later. But you removed the sheath somewhere or somehow. Did you take that out of the sheath while you were in the car?
No, I had it in my hand as when I was on the path.
You had the sheath in one hand, the knife in the other,
Mm-hmm.
and you were wearing gloves. You said at
Mhm.
the time. Okay.
Yeah.
And the gloves you were wearing were coincidentally cut-proof gloves because those are the kinds you wear at work?
They were the only ones I had in my car at the time. I
Did you-
used them
did
for
you-
driving. And
Did
lots
you
of
have
other
those
things.
on the whole evening, or did you put them on when you exited the car with the knife?
I had those on the entire evening from the time that I left.
So when you walk across the street with the intentions of having some type of contact with this woman,
Mhm.
you have a knife in one hand, a sheath in the other. You already unsheathed it.
No, I did not unsheath it at the time. I unsheathed it right when I had bumped into her.
So as after you guys bump in, you draw it from its sheath.
Yes.
How do you do it? Make a motion with your hands.
I had it in one hand like this, and I had it in one hand like this, but I think I had it behind me, so it was somewhat concealed, so it wouldn't be seen. And then when I kind of bumped into her, when I bumped into her, and we both twirled around, sort of. That's I brought it out and I drew it, and I stabbed.
So you're saying that? So you're indicating you were holding the knife in your right hand in this fashion.
Yes.
And you had the sheath in your left hand.
Mm-hmm.
And did she see the knife? Did she say anything? Did she try to push, escape, struggle?
I think she probably. Well, I don't know if she saw the knife. This all happened very, very quickly in my mind.
Yeah.
But I think after I stabbed her with the knife and I pulled it out, I believe she did push me. But she was smaller than I was, so when she pushed me, the knife came out and stayed in my hand, and she tumbled over the guardrail.
When you stabbed her,
Mm-hmm.
and then did she say anything? What was it? You said it was quick.
Mm-hmm.
Did she back up? Did she walk backwards?
So, if I'm standing facing Iron Horse Boulevard, she would be standing facing me, facing the woods, and I had the knife in my hand and it was in her chest. When she pushed back at me, I went backward, but so did she, and she fell over. The pushing of myself pushed her over the guardrail. So, in fact, I kind of, I resisted too. So, my resistance tumbled her backward onto Iron Horse.
Did you say anything to her?
I was in such shock at the time. Like, I knew what I had done, but I was in such shock. I didn't say anything. I just was trembling and shaking, and my teeth were chattering. And I ran back across the street toward my car, and as I was running, I put the knife back in its sheath, which was still in my hand, my left hand, and the knife was in my right hand. I put it back in its sheath, and so it was probably dripping on the road, I'm guessing. I put it back in its sheath midway, as I was running, and I ran across the road, and when I was halfway across the road, I heard her start screaming, oh my god, and oh my god.
And this is when she's already fallen over the
Yeah,
guardrail.
she's already fallen over and I'm already running away. And I had already figured out what I'd done and regretting it instantly.
All right, I'm going to stop you right
Okay.
there just for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So she pushes you with her body,
I
her
think
hands.
both hands, I think.
Both hands. Where did she come into contact with you?
My chest, because her hands were somewhere in my torso area. You know, she pushed with both hands, and so my knife was still in her chest when she pushed me, and she was shorter than I am, so when her hands came at me, they went underneath my arms, and so she pushed me, and I'm bigger than she was, so I didn't move really, but the force of pushing me, she went backward, and
And the knife pulled out.
knife pulled out, and that's when I was holding it, and I noticed the blood on it.
And when she pushed herself backwards, and this is when she tumbles over the guardrail,
Mm-hmm.
And now this is very. You need to really think about this and don't answer the question just to appease me.
Mm-hmm.
Did you make any other cutting motions at her?
No.
Did you injure her in any other fashion? Did you swipe at her before you stabbed her in the chest and you came up with that knife out of the sheath? Did you hit her in any portion of her body that you know of? Or could you have?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right.
What's her wound going to look like?
Well, the blade was not particularly thick. It was not like a chef's knife. It was pretty. The blade was only about maybe an inch high, and it was a slightly curved blade, and the blade was about 6 to 8 inches long, so about that long, and then the handle was handle size.
So that's good that we're talking about that right now. So you purchased it at Walmart a few months before this.
Yes.
You purchased it for, and I'm sort of reiterating this for Jim's benefit.
Yes.
You purchased it for your grandmother, not for a certain event, but just the fact that she had some dull knives.
Yeah.
And again, this is what I'm recalling from last night. If I'm wrong, stop me and correct me.
Mm-hmm.
You purchased it for your grandmother because she had just dull knives in the kitchen.
Yeah.
You purchased it at Walmart. You ended up not giving it to her because you were afraid she was going to chastise you for spending your money, which she didn't like you to.
Mm-hmm.
When you bought this at Walmart, you said it was about $13, maybe $19. Is that what you said?
Yes, and I bought some car cleaning supplies because my car needed a good cleaning.
Yep.
My windshield was dirty, my seats were dirty, so I bought a spray bottle and some paper towels.
And did you pay cash? You used a debit card, credit card?
Cash, I believe.
You believe?
I mean, as far as I know.
Did you have a credit card at the time?
I didn't have a credit card, and I only had a debit card for Simsbury Bank. But I was only supposed to use it for gas, so I only paid cash for everything else.
Okay. Could you have used your debit card from Simsbury Bank?
I could have, but
you just don't recall.
I just don't recall.
It's not common practice for you to have used your bank card.
Not usually, no.
Okay.
Have you been to Walmart since? Do they still sell that type of knife?
Maybe, but I haven't looked.
What Walmart did you have?
Avon. I go to that Avon Walmart frequently enough. I go there for gardening supplies.
And it's a kitchen style knife or is it a hunting knife?
It's a kitchen knife. It was in the kitchen section.
Okay. It came with a sheath?
Not like a nylon sheath. It was just like a plastic covering from keep people from hurting themselves in store.
Right. But when you bring it to your kitchen, you throw that thing away.
Yeah, most people just throw it away.
But it was a single knife. It wasn't a set of 5 or
No.
anything like that. And that's a true story? You bought that for your grandmother? Or you,
Yeah, that was the original intention.
Right.
And I'm not being rude, not paying attention to you. I'm actually on Walmart.com and checking out their knives.
Okay.
And you said it was a black-handled knife.
Yeah. Black with like a silver.
Do you recall the name of the brand?
I don't. I mean, it's a fairly recognizable brand. It wasn't like some sort of it was not like a no-name brand or just like store brand.
Something like that?
No, that would be a chef's knife.
Okay.
The blade would be a lot thinner.
Okay. So you decided after buying it that maybe I'm not going to give it to Grandma because she may be upset.
Yes.
So you keep it in your car for 3 months.
Yeah.
So why is it in your car, and is it still wrapped up? Now, how was you said it was sold individually. It was the kind like plastic with the little hole, and they would hang them up as a display.
Yeah.
So how long was it in your car still wrapped in that plastic?
The whole time, up until this night.
So how did those plastic things are sometimes a bear to open up. At what point that night did you decide to rip it out of that package?
Right as I stabbed her. Like, I hadn't even opened it up at any other point that night.
So where I'm going with this, and I don't, maybe we're not on the same page. Not the sheath. I'm talking about this knife. When you purchase an individual knife, it's usually wrapped in like that hard shell plastic.
Yes, but
was it still?
It was, but it wasn't. Okay, so I get what you're talking about. Like, if you buy a pair of scissors or a stapler, it's wrapped in that like
hard
plastic.
You have
Then
to almost cut it.
you have to almost cut it. This knife was not in such a kind of plastic. It was just a plain, thin piece of plastic surrounding the blade itself, but it was easy to open.
Okay.
So it wasn't the kind of thing where you had to pull it apart yourself and risk a paper cut. Because you know how those plastics are.
Sure.
The ones that are like they're crimped around the edges, and if you try to open it, you risk cutting yourself with an awful.
You know what?
plastic
A regular customer can't just go into and open it up. You would have to break a seal, right? Or a case.
Yes, you'd have to break a seal.
Okay.
And but the seal on this particular one was very easy to break.
And did you break it that night?
Yes.
See, and that's where I'm having a really tough time sort of digesting this. I'm going to be honest with you. It's simply this. So you need some human companionship. What you said. You went down there, pet a dog, did this. As you're leaving to just go or do whatever, you see a woman that you are very attracted to for different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
You make the intention of pulling down the street, knowing of a darkened area, lying in wait for this woman, with the sole intention of just human interaction, and maybe I could inadvertently bump into her, or maybe start a conversation, or maybe. But at what point, Will, do you say, all right, here's a very attractive woman running towards me. I need to get closer to this woman. I don't know why. I don't know if it's human interaction, if it's sexual, if I want to harm her. All I know is I want to get close to this woman. Mm-hmm. Why then is your first thought to take a knife that you say is in your car? Let me finish. Mm-hmm. It's in your car for the better part of 3 months, and you decide now is the time. It's not readily accessible. It's not just laying on your floor unwrapped. It's in your car, in the plastic still. You have to physically unwrap it with that intention. If your intention is to only get close to this attractive woman, and who knows, maybe you'll stop and talk and have a conversation and you have it, whatever it may be, but you're hoping for some type of interaction. Mm-hmm. Why then, Will? What is the importance of unwrapping a knife? It's not like you... Oftentimes, guys always carry pocket knives or things in that nature, and it was just by shit luck you have a pocket knife on you and this happened. Mm-hmm. You intentionally got that wrapped knife that was in your car, unwrapped it consciously, held it behind your back so she wouldn't initially see it. After the intentional bumping that you did to confront her, it wasn't to say, oh, I'm sorry to bump you. Oh, hey, I'm a runner too. It wasn't. Your intention was, I bumped her, she stopped, I drew it out of its little sheath, and I plunged it right into her chest without any communication. Mm-hmm. So here's where I'm having a tough time thinking. What was your mindset of the purpose of unwrapping a knife, walking across the street, lying in wait, feigning that you were jogging to, intentionally hitting her to stop her? Tell me what the mindset was, if you knew at all.
I feel my mindset was that here's a woman that I find attractive, and that I can't have her, and that made me a little angry, and so I think that was at the point, at first when I was first leaving the post office, it was just that, hey, there's an attractive woman. Mm-hmm. And then it rapidly progressed to, I'm way out of my league with this woman, I can't have this woman's probably married, probably about a bazillion other things going through my mind, and that made me angry. And that's when I decided to bring the knife with me. So your intention, you were angry? Yes. Your intention about bringing the knife now was related to my anger. Was related to your anger. So when you stepped out of that car, was your intention to harm this woman? Harm or scare, I'm not sure which. Maybe just scare. The knife would have successfully achieved that. But when I drew it, this is where my line of thinking and events get a little fuzzy in my own mind. I drew it, I plunged it in, and that was that. Okay. I was angry, and that's kind of where... You were angry because here was a woman that may have been out of your league? Out of my league, too old for me, probably has kids and a husband, is married, take your pick of any reasons that might have upset me, and decided that I couldn't have her. So when I went across the street, originally just to have a little female contact, it escalated rapidly from the time I got out of my car with the knife.
So your anger escalated
To the point
you worked yourself up into a frenzy.
I would consider myself frenzied at that point.
So when you walked across the street, your intention was to either scare her or harm her. The simple question here, and it truly is a simple question, did you unsheath that knife with the intentions of killing this woman? Now think about that, because this is sort of, this is important. Did you, and you've been
I don't know if I had the intention of killing necessarily, but I think I had the intention of stabbing. I was worked up in a frenzy, and my blow is just, I guess it was just, the stab wound was just very good. Like, very, very accurate. I didn't know.
Okay. So, I'm saying this again because I want to comprehend it, because I have to, and so does Jim. So, you see this woman. You don't go down to the boulevard with the intentions of killing anybody.
Not when the night started, no.
Okay, your intention is human interaction.
Yes.
Had you not seen this attractive woman, somebody that you were attracted to, run by you, what was your intention?
I probably would have gotten bored and gone home.
Okay. Was your intention to wait until you found somebody you were attracted to and then do this to them?
No. It was very spur of the moment.
All right. So, you see her. She's very attractive. You already described her. You drive down intentionally to lie in wait. You're working yourself up in a frenzy.
Yeah.
Because of all the things you said. She's probably married. She's attractive. She's out of your league. She has a husband. Whatever it may be. And that's not fair.
Yeah.
You'd never have a chance with her. So at that point, you unwrap, and you correct me if I'm wrong. I'm reliving this.
Yes.
You intentionally unwrap that knife
Yeah.
with the intention of causing her harm. You want to stab her. You don't intend on killing her, but if
that happens, yeah.
It happened. Have you ever done anything like this before?
No.
This is a very callous one-time incident. Have you done anything since?
No. I've never heard anyone else before or after this.
And you said last night you don't know this woman.
No.
You know her name now.
I know her name now, but prior to the stabbing, I did not know her at all.
This is a complete just random act.
Random stranger, random act. I didn't know her. I didn't know what she did, anything about her, or anything.
You do now.
Yes.
Yeah. Did you, I think I asked you last night and refresh my memory, did you keep any mementos from her?
No.
From...
When she pushed away and the knife came out and I saw the blood, I just ran. It had never even occurred to me to take anything of hers or from her. Not even...
Have you ever visited the site? I know you're a local guy. You ever visit the site? There's been memorials there for a long time.
I've had to drive by it to go to the post office or sometimes to go to Valley Home and Garden. I've driven by it and said prayers for her, and as I told you before, I've walked by it several times before she knew anything.
And what is your mindset when you walk by that with a woman that you're trying to have a relationship with?
Complete sadness.
Have you ever put anything on the memorial?
No.
No?
No.
Have you ever felt compelled to?
No.
Okay. Oh, perfect timing.
Done. We have your sandwiches too, if you guys want to.
Yeah, well, yeah.
In 4 years, he never even put anything on her memorial. I think we'll leave it right there. I wonder what you thought about all the details of this case. His cell phone being off because it fell on the ground and he just so happened to never put the battery back in. How about the knife that was purchased for his grandmother? The knife that he never gave her, only to unwrap it for the first time when he saw this lady jogging in the dark. Did turning himself in voluntarily win any points with you? And lastly, why did he turn himself in to begin with? Was it to win points with that girl he liked? Thank you again for giving me your valuable time by watching another episode of They Caught Me. Till next time.